Just this week, there have been reports that OpenAI is looking to work with Qualcomm and another chip company, MediaTek, on smartphone hardware. We've also done a lot of reporting ourselves on the GPU supply crunch. Joining me now to break down the current state of play in chips is Ben Pouladian, founder and CEO of BEP Research. Ben, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here. Long time listener, first time caller. You have a great program, and I'm excited to talk about the stuff that I cover in my research.
Well, we're excited to have you on. So, look, let's start with the news yesterday. So, OpenAI potentially working with Qualcomm and MediaTek. These are not the GPUs that have really encapsulated AI, but it was certainly a market moving bit of reporting. What did you make of that?
There's always a lot of talk. I think OpenAI is still trying to find its strategy of distribution. Obviously, they had a device that they tried to make of Johnny Ive, and now they're trying to enter the phone segment. But getting into something like that at scale is very challenging, and it's something that Apple and other handset manufacturers have a strong chokehold on at the moment. So talks for now are very preliminary, probably.
Right. Well, let's go to a couple of the other bigger chip stories. One story that I was curious to get your take on is we had Glenn Hutchins on the show yesterday. He was the co-founder of Silver Lake, and I asked him about his travels to Asia and the rivalry between the U.S. and Asian AI ecosystems. And he made the point. He said, "Look, China is learning how to do more with less in an environment where they cannot get a hold of the best chips in the world in Nvidia." What's your sense of that? I mean, as you studied the Chinese chip landscape at large, I mean, do you think we're underestimating them?
Yes, because if you go back a few weeks ago to the Jensen Dwarkers podcast that created the huge discourse, China has an abundance of electricity, but doesn't have the compute or the chips to run them on. So what they're essentially doing is trying to parallelize H100 early stage type NVIDIA chips, which is at like a nanometer scale, and put them together with very sophisticated algorithms and weights and methods of compute to use breakthroughs in that to leapfrog what we're doing here in America. So we have more horsepower, less actual electricity. They have a lot of electricity but less horsepower, and they're working with those constraints. And the Asian open source labs from ByteDance or Alibaba Qwen or even DeepSeek V4 demonstrated that, and they said they trained all of those new models with Huawei chips, essentially.
So how do you think this ends up playing out then?
It's gonna be a bifurcated world of compute and standards. I think that's what Jensen has been saying for a while, just because if we give them chips, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. The whole point is to get everyone on the CUDA standard. CUDA itself operates on NVIDIA silicon through the chips and the whole system as a factory, and it improves and it does all those things. And at the same time, the United States can monitor what's being done with those. But if you're leaving everything to China to develop their own semiconductor ecosystem, you're going to go with those constraints and build those chips and build a competing system and try to sell that. Basically, the same Chinese playbook that we've seen over and over again. They take any technology and they deflate the cost and they go around the world to frontier markets like Africa or Southeast Asia and said, "Oh, you need AI? Oh, you can't afford NVIDIA? No problem. We'll lend you all this money. You can buy all this Huawei chips. We'll build you a data center and make sure you run on DeepSeek or Quen or whatever it is." And that's it. America lost on the AI opportunity there in those markets. And then in those models, they put their own flavor of whatever they think history is based on the Chinese perspective,
Right,
as we've seen before.
right. I want to get your thoughts on a couple other stories that are trending. So Intel reported earnings last week, and their stock is, I mean, it is the stock to own right
Yeah.
now. What do you make of their comeback here?
But if you look at my history on X, I've been invested in NVIDIA since 2016 because that's when DGX1 came out. And the challenges of Intel is they lost the whole mojo of the GPU and AI, and now through all this management change and having the government taking a stake in it now, and even Nvidia has a stake in it, they're kind of in the right place at the right time with the right product. It's more of luck. I don't think it's more of Liput tan management, which everyone talks about. It's because if you look at the 2025 GTC keynote, Jensen showed the next inflection in AI compute is agentic AI, and to control the multiple agents and tool calls, it's not a GPU based thing. It's a CPU based idea. So everyone's rushing out and saying, okay, what's the next bottleneck? It's CPUs. Who makes CPUs? It's Intel, AMD, and then obviously ARM that licenses cores for those types of CPUs.
So this is something I didn't appreciate, but so the agentic workloads that we talk about, those are actually even more dependent on CPUs than sort of the I guess the 2023 AI workloads, the chatbot workloads.
Correct. Yeah, because we're going from AI to actually doing things for us and opening up apps and orchestrating tasks. That's more of a CPU based task. And
Hmm.
because it's AI controlling other AIs, to do that controlling, you need a CPU. And that's something that, again, I tell everyone to just watch GTC keynotes and listen to every word. I think that the new NVIDIA NVL, the new Vera Rubin system that's coming out later this year has a Vera Rubin CPU that NVIDIA also designed on an ARM core, which is specifically designed for these agentic tasks. So, like, they're already there for that, and they have the whole stack. So I think that's something that people are missing the forest through the trees again.
So you talked about the demand for CPUs. We've done reporting on the GPU shortage or crunch right now that everyone is going through. We obviously know that memory chips are also in short supply right now and high demand. What about networking chips? Is that where you see the shortage going next, or where are you looking ahead for the next bottleneck?
I don't think there's a bottleneck in actual GPUs from NVIDIA. I think the bottleneck realistically is when you think of building data centers, it it's not something that's done in a factory. It's actually taking land and getting permitting, building concrete walls and infrastructure and actual human labor to stand up a building and wiring. You need people, and we don't have enough, obviously, skilled tradesmen around the United States to really build these things at scale. Once those things are built, everything else, the last things that go in are pretty much the GPUs. Uh, I think people are missing that point. I think we have all those things. And as far as networking, there's been this big debate on CPO, which is basically silicon photonics of taking light and electronics and mixing it together, because the whole point is as models get larger and we have more data and we need faster compute, the question is how fast do you move the data between the GPU and the memory chip? The f- you need it to go faster because you don't want to wait as long. So the question is, does it go fast on copper? Or if it doesn't go on fast on copper anymore, then what's faster than the speed of light? So we're trying to use light. And I think that's more of a 2028 story, which you'll see in probably in the Feynman generation of NVIDIA GPUs, which we're trying to move the industry in that direction for that in around 2028.
Right. Great. Well, Ben, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Ben Pouladian, founder and CEO of BEP Research here on TITV.